hey, these kids are going to kill you, watched it all happen.
Hello and welcome. My name's J.E., and with me today is my good old friend, Alexander Gonzalez.
Hello.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing okay. We're in the second day of fall, or is this? Yeah. And I hear even in California, it's 100 degrees.
Yeah, I was going to say, sure doesn't feel like it. But those are not the seasons that we are talking about today. Today, we are creating something new. Every week, we are not game devs. We'll create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but do not have any knowledge or know-how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. Today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs 1, 2, 3 IP. I just have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's begin with the basic concept.
The next time you'll be able to do that is 4, 5, 6. And since you're on 1, 2, 3, I get 4, 5, 6.
Do you think that's how it's going to work out?
I mean, you could always switch it up and you become
true.
Evens again. But right now I am Evens. So
true.
my destiny line is currently on that. But let's begin with the basic concept.
All right. So a while back, you weren't obsessed, but you had a fun time with a game called Spellbreak. And
I saw you playing it on Switch, and I thought about downloading it there, and I thought to myself, why would Nintendo's online service be any better?
Right. Because your problem with it was the connection issues.
Yeah. Fun game.
It is a fun game. And what made it fun? What made it fun was it was a take on a genre that's normally a shooter, correct?
Are we making another battle royale?
We're not making another battle royale. We are making a hero shooter with fantasy characters. So think more like medieval. So essentially it's going to be Overwatch if all the characters were like Hanzos and Genjis and Brigittes and
I see what you're talking about. So we're gonna have a cast of characters, and this is very easy to do. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna have a thief. We're gonna have a bard.
I wasn't even thinking about going that direction, but yeah, we could definitely do that. And I mean, we could even have like the classic like fantasy characters, like the Baldur's Gate or like the Diablo-like characters,
Yeah, and they can be heroes to their own right, because that's what we want in a hero shooter, is that they're more established and they're not just the classic archetype, but they make it unique in their own way. Mm-hmm. I was thinking we could have 2 characters that I think would be really cool. Would be famous playwright that maybe he writes fate or something, and what he writes comes true, or what he draws. We could do something like that, and it could either be a famous artist or playwright, and maybe what he draws comes to life, and you have different drawings you can do that he's famous for. And the other one would be a famous bard who's known throughout the land and could make songs that buff up characters.
I already like those 2 characters that you added. Like in terms of the artist character that you just described, yeah, I think I could imagine it's kind of like in terms of what you see in first person, right? Because I imagine it's more first person than third person. I imagine it to be kind of like how you see Moira's hands in Overwatch, but she or he is holding a book, and the other one like a quill pen. Right. Mm-hmm. And then every time you use one of your triggers or your triangle ult button, you'll see the character draw like a character in the book and then say some kind of word and summon something in front of you. Right.
Yeah.
So it could kind of be like the equivalent of, I guess, like a Torbjorn turret, but it's going to be like a character, or like Ash's Bob. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could have it like that, where there would be one where it's a turret setup or something that attacks in a radius. You can have another drawing that leaps out of the page in a forward motion and maybe walks a little bit. So anyone that runs into it gets hit in the forward motion. Mm-hmm. And another one can be something where maybe it's like a bunch of, he draws a bunch of small, simple like birds that fly out of the pages up and then down, and then the team can see maybe with like a highlighted portion of the floor where the bird is going to be, so you can aim it and then everyone can see where it's going to drop.
How do you like the idea, before we start making even more characters, what do you like the idea of each character? So you know how in Overwatch each character essentially has like three skills, right? And sometimes a fourth one, depending on what character you're using. But what if in this game, what you can do is we give the character like we give the player, sorry, like 6 different skills, and you got to pick 3 of those 6 skills. And so you
Yeah,
could
so there'll be different builds that you can equip. So you can equip different moves to your character. So it'll be like a loadout.
exactly.
I think that would work just fine.
But we're not going to go too crazy where you have like a dozen skills to pick from. You just have a few, and so most people are going to have the same loadout. Not same loadout, but most people are going to have at least one skill that they all use, and maybe even for like the healer, everyone's going to always pick this one skill because I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, but it'll
there's definitely going to be an optimized build that's gonna, you can't avoid metas in this game.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
There'll be that. But and I'm sure what you're saying too is partly like that there's going to be a preferably tankier build and a preferably DPS build. So depending on which way you lean,
right,
it'll be easy for you to decide.
And I think the reason I want to do that is because the guy with the book or girl with the book with the art, I think is such a cool idea. And you already named so many different skills that he or she could have used, but you don't have that many buttons. You know what I'm saying? To like cast all those
you would just
spells.
have preferably you would just use your shoulder buttons, right? The 4 right up there.
And I think it's
maybe
it's a
one face.
Great, cool idea, but I would want us to be able to flesh out more. Like this guy who draws, he's not just drawing 3 of the same drawings over and over.
No,
again.
and it doesn't have to be animals. Those were all an example. He can also draw something.
He could even
where he starts drawing like a wall, and maybe you can even have it where the strength of the wall is the amount of time spent drawing. So it could be a simple wall that's a rough structure where if he throws it up for 1 second, it uses less ink, but it's not as strong. But if he keeps drawing the wall, it gets more and more reinforced, but it takes longer to put up.
Oh, that's a cool skill idea as well. But essentially what it pretty much does is just give us more ways to make each character feel more unique. Yeah. And gives the player a way to customize their character to their play style. And it might just be more like your R2, so your main attack ability, you could choose between 2 different ones. One that's like more of a, let's take Ana from Overwatch, for example. One is more of like a hit scan, and the other one's more like a projectile. And you could choose either or depending on what you like better. If you like it more,
I see. So you would want to vary up the skills based on the type of play you like to do.
Exactly.
Where for those that don't know, like hit scan, it's where you click on the character and the damage is automatically applied. Whereas projectile has to travel through space and you have to almost predictively aim it to hit them.
It's like bullet drop off versus just boom, they're hit type of deal.
Yeah, and what's funny is until Overwatch, I didn't know there was a difference.
Right.
Just for me, like, so if you don't know that there was a difference, it's okay. It took me a long time to figure that out.
I think bullet drop off, the first time I ever experienced it was in like CSGO. And I was like, why isn't my bullets hitting? But
no, for me, it's always real. Like it took them a long time to spell it out for me where they're like, all right, yeah. You got to aim the sniper. I think I'm trying to be soap right now.
What are you? Are you like Ollie or something? Like what was that?
I honestly, I shouldn't do accents ever because I end up blending them all together and it makes me sound very racist. So I'm gonna stop. But it's when you do your first sniper mission where they're like, look at the flag. Do you see the wind? You're so far away. There's gonna be bullet drop. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing.
Or like think like sports games, like golf games. Like you gotta take the wind into consideration and like how fast, the direction, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. So some other classes, it's really easy because you can do one's gonna have to be like the witch. I want to do another one where it's more of a melee class that moves fast, but interestingly, I want it to be the village idiot, but I want it to be like he's a drunken ninja, but made so like he can roll and dodge, and he rolls fast, and he can also throw his beer to disorient people, and when it lands it makes it slippery so they walk slower. And also maybe he can have another one where he throws up. I think it would be a really fun, like his special maybe as he throws up and it does a big old debuff on people.
Oh, that's gonna look so disgusting. Like in first person, you just it's like in Sea of Thieves.
Or how
if
about
you
just a
drink too much, you
belch?
just
How about it's just a belch then instead of throw up? So it's better.
Sure.
But I guess you won't be able to see it as much if you're on the enemy team. Maybe it's better if it's a projectile vomit.
Yeah, I think vomit works. Or he's like just throwing food or something. I don't know. Anyway, getting more into
could you imagine his voice dialogue or her voice dialogue? Because it's just someone who's drunk and belligerent.
And speaking of dialogue, I think that there's going to be a lot of it, just like how Overwatch does it, or even Apex Legends. There's going to be a lot of lore. So I'm assuming there's going to be the good guys, quote unquote, and the bad guys, quote unquote, and then maybe neutral parties. You know what I mean? So I'm talking like Overwatch versus Deathwatch versus everyone in between.
And in this world, there's, I already see it. It's medieval, so you're going to have knights. You're going to have outlaws. You're going to have people who practice magic.
Yeah.
You're going to have magical creatures who aren't going to be a fan of the knights. You're going to have religious zealots, which are maybe in between.
Right. And I mean, I just seeing that, I can imagine there's like, elven characters, dwarves, goblins, orcs, probably. We could even have like just getting to more magical stuff. There could be like a necromancer character that raises like dead things to fight for you.
Yeah. And I was thinking, you know how I told you there's a bard character that can play a concert and buff and debuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, what if you even had a king? So you had like a literal king in there that does the same, but instead it's all buffs and protection.
How about we
from behind, like a support character?
So super early on when we were talking about this game in the earlier stages, I was imagining what would be cool is if there were certain characters that, not technically a light and dark version, but like opposing characters that have similar abilities but different in their own ways. You know what I mean? So for the king character, there is that king character that's like a light king, a good king, quote unquote, and he's like, I imagine him a little bit younger, like a younger king, and he, like you said, is more of the support character. But then there's the evil king who's a little bit older.
Okay,
and like,
so we'll have one called king, and then we'll have the other one called the tyrant.
Well, I'm assuming these people are all going to have names when we get finalized.
So the tyrant, I see what you're talking about. What would be really cool is with the tyrant, if there's a move that when it pops up, it's like it pops up in front of a character if he aims right, and it's stocks. And if he aims it just right, the stocks fall down, so it traps the head and arms of the character, so they're stunned there for a couple seconds.
Oh, you're talking about like the head and arm thing.
Yeah, the head and arm shackles that are in medieval times. He can aim it, and if a character like walks into it as it shuts, then they're stunned for 1 to 2 seconds, the tyrant. Doesn't that sound dope?
Yeah, kind of like a Junkrat trap type of deal.
Yeah, just to disable really quick. But I see that being a feature of the tyrant.
Definitely. Rangers, we can make like an elf archer. That's super easy. Yeah. I like the idea of a thief. Maybe, I don't know what a thief would be like.
I think a thief would be maybe if there's an ability that every single time, maybe they wouldn't have stealth necessarily, although they'll have a quick stealth, but they'll have an ability that every time, maybe the next 3 stabs they do in the back of somebody, they drain their ult gauge. So their ult gauge. So it's like when they do a stab, the ult goes from the person into them.
I have a crazy idea for an ult. And I mean, a lot of this I'm stealing from Overwatch and Apex and stuff. But what if the thief his ult or one of his potential ults, because you could change these out, is that you could camouflage for a short time as one of the enemy characters. Like you could pick one, transform as them, but on the enemy screen, all of a sudden you'll look like part of their team. You know
So
what I mean?
it's a fun mechanic. It's alluring, but I'll tell you, it doesn't work like you think. The enemy finds out way faster
That's
than
true.
you.
I understand where you're going with it. Like, but what if we make it maybe what it is you pop the ult and then it'll bring, like, you're hiding in a corner, right? You pop the ult and maybe it'll bring up a selection of the enemy team, and then you could pick one and then you'll transform where you're standing, and then when you pop out, the enemy won't know, unless you
I
change to
think
the king, and
let's
then
make
you
it.
see the king right when you pop out. You know what I mean?
Let's take it up a notch. Let's make this ult so you can transform into any character on the map, whether it be your own teams or in enemies. That
Okay.
way you can run diversions. Think about it. What if you were to play as the support of your character's team and you run away as the support? So a DPS tries to find you, you dip out around a corner, and then it's a one-on-one battle. Or you keep running away and now their team's down. Maybe you split them up. Or it can be something else where you're trapped in a corner and you make it look like your tank's coming from around the other side and they leave you alone.
Right. Well, we said that we could change out your skills. So what if we had two different ults for the thief, where one of them was what you said, where you could become any character you want, and then you could just lure people away, and maybe there would be a way where, because I don't see the thief being like a 1v1 type of character. When you go around the corner and lure people away, you could like teleport away or disappear or something. And just mislead.
I've got a great idea for another character now.
All right, let's hear it.
So the merchant. So this one, the merchant will be able to have one passive skill where they can set a bounty on a target. If your team kills that target first as the bounty's going on, the merchant gets coins. With these coins, they're able to buy things such as potions to give to team members or throw acid. And depending on how you do bounties and how you collect, and you can also maybe pickpocket enemy team members and your allies too. So if they're down on the floor, you can pat them down for coins, but it takes time. And that's how you also get money.
That's a crazy character, but that sounds super, super cool. And I could see the merchant and the thief, they're like opposing sides. You know what I mean? Thieves on the dark side, merchants on the light side. I mean, merchant's a little shady, but they work for the will of the king or whatever. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and you can have one like, yeah, and we can call them different names depending on which way. If you want the merchant to be shadier, we can call them the tax collector from the tyrant. So now they're
what
robbing
if that's
people
just what
or
the thief's
extorting
name is
people.
called? It's that instead of being the thief, he's the tax collector.
That works too.
I like the idea that all the characters will have names. Like the tax collector's name could be Drake, right? But
yeah,
in the hero selection screen, it'd be like Drake, the tax collector. You know what I mean? Like each of them will have a title, and it'll like, in the dialogue, in the voiceover stuff, they'll interchange the names. Like be like, oh yeah, Drake, he works for me and he gets me a lot of money, type of thing. And that's like what a tyrant voice line, right?
Yeah.
But then like the king sometimes would be like, oh man, that tax collector, you shouldn't trust him. He's gonna just steal all your money, type of deal. You know what I mean? Like the names can be interchanged, and I think it'll be a cool, in terms of lore wise, that people know these characters' names, but sometimes they refer them to their nickname. Kind of like in Game of Thrones, where they refer to Jaime as the Kingslayer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They have earned nicknames. I like that. I can keep coming up with hero ideas all day. So we probably need to flesh it out, but it seems like we're going to do, I imagine the levels to be based on different places where these characters come from. I could see one being city streets where it's like cobblestone that maybe there's different rooms you can bow into. So one's like a bar where it's like an inn with a stew brewing. There's people playing cards. Maybe certain characters are recognized there by, NPCs that don't get in the way, but maybe there's voices in between that talk. I could see another one, of course, being a forest where there's different parts of the forest that are maybe more magical, where there's elves and there's other parts where maybe you go underground in the forest and there's dwarves, and that way there's a verticality part of it.
Maybe we could
Um,
just do NPC, quote unquote, kind of like how Star Wars Battlefront does it, where they're just
yeah,
running around, but you can't. They'll run right through you if you do happen to run into them. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
breaks
yeah,
immersion a little bit, but it's just kind of cool just to see people running around at all times. You know what I mean? And then
yeah,
you could
absolutely.
hear bits of the lore through these NPCs. Like if they see the tyrant and you're in like the king's city, maybe the
Mhm.
NPCs will say something like, "Oh my god, everyone hide" or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
I think it'd be cool to have two courtyards. One is the tyrant, one is the king, so you can see the difference in the living conditions and like decorations and what they put up and what they have that changes them.
yeah.
And they could be two definitely unique castles. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of levels you can do with it.
Speaking of levels, let's talk a little bit about game modes. So obviously, we could do the normal capture 3 points or something
Yeah.
in a certain amount of time. Excuse me. Or maybe we could even do in terms, since this is more of a fantasy esque world, maybe one of the game modes can be kind of more like a, well, obviously we have to have a King of the Hill game mode, right?
Yeah, yeah. We can do one that's King of the Hill. We can do one where it's capture A, B, and C. We can do a team deathmatch mode. There
Maybe
can
like
definitely
capture the
be,
crown, like a capture the flag type of deal.
yeah, yeah. And we can also do another that's free for all.
Do you
And
want it to
then
be like a team deathmatch free
what
for
would
all
be
type of deal
fun?
or like objective based Overwatch kind of game?
No, I think I would want it to be slightly objective and team based here because I don't think the meta would be kind enough to the characters that I'm creating. For
Mhm.
instance, I don't think the artist or the merchant would have a very good time against somebody like a gladiator or, the people's champion, something like that.
You think that, but like think Overwatch, you got Mercy just flying around. It's not like Mercy versus Reaper is a good
Yeah,
matchup.
in a team match, but in free for all, it like if that was the main component, it would delve into everyone choosing a shotgun character or a thief or someone with a crossbow.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think I guess essentially, do we want this to be more competitive in terms of kill each other, or more competitive in terms of everyone has to work as a team for a common goal?
I think we'll have to do the team for a common goal because I want to see some cool shit happen. And unless you bottleneck players, they're gonna want to do team deathmatch.
Right. I mean, I think it should be there as an option. But like the competitive game mode, I think should be more along the lines of, like how Overwatch does it, where it's go to this objective and try to take it while the other
Yeah.
team tries to come and take it away from you. Um, what do you think of the idea of like a this is taking a little bit from like Rainbow Six Siege, where it's like you as one team, and obviously good guys and bad guys could be on the same team together. It's just part of the lore that there's two sides. But like King and Tyrant could be on the same team. They're just going to have a voice line that shows that they hate each other, type of thing. Maybe the King doesn't hate the
Hmm.
Tyrant, but the Tyrant definitely hates the King. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but what if we have a game mode where one team has to like protect uh high priority target while the other team has to come and try to take them, where and then on the second round in competitive mode, you have to do the opposite to them type of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work though. Maybe you would have to, I guess it would work kind of like capture the flag, where you have to infiltrate their base where the hostage is and then slowly escort them out.
Yeah, you could do that. I was trying to think of what you would escort out, like maybe a procession. Like you would have a
Maybe in this world, there's like either a race or a group of highly specialized individuals that are neutral, but like let's say like maybe it's like a powerful mage guild where they're neutral, but and both sides want them to be on their side. Um and these
maybe some
people,
type of apostates.
yeah, or some,
Maybe everybody wants them on their side except for the zealots, which want them dead.
right. Or maybe we're even getting further into like different fantasy worlds, but we're creating our own. So let's just mash all the fantasy worlds into one. Maybe there are characters in this universe, and this could be like later hero DLC that we add much later in the future, but like the Dragonborn, and they're all like
Or
little.
what if not even dragonborns? What if dragon eggs?
Oh, just straight up eggs.
Yeah, so like maybe it's notoriously difficult to raise a dragon in captivity to adulthood. But if you do, it's almost like a superpower. So maybe we can even have two characters where there's two dragoons, but they're two totally different dragons that do totally different abilities. But because of that, there's two dragon warrior characters. And it's like having a superpower or a nuke or a missile that you could have where it's like, oh shit, for his ult, he summoned his dragon kind of thing. And I was thinking we could have one. This would even work great for the king and the tyrant character, where maybe it's going to be mismatched, where the tyrant, this old crotchety king, has a recently young dragon that he acquired, and this one is full of fire and can superheat things. And then the young one has a dragon that they sort of nursed and has become very, very old, but still works for them. And the dragoon summons this dragon. It's an old guy, and this dragon has no fire anymore, but uses smoke. So then does smoke, which can combine with different fire characters or just obscure visibility, or even if there's too much smoke, do damage over time where they can't breathe.
Okay, I kind of like what you said about the king and the tyrant getting their own dragons. So if
I think it would be a different character that controls their dragons. I don't think it would be the king and the tyrant.
So in the lore, it's their dragons, but someone else uses them.
Almost, just like a president
Like
has like a
something.
jet, or
Yeah.
And they would have jet fighters ready. It's almost like another arm of their military.
Because where I was going with that train of thought was maybe we'll have both in terms of what I'm trying to think of, where we will introduce brand new characters with brand new skill sets and stuff for you to play around with. And I can imagine for how we do it, we don't release one hero at a time. We release two heroes at a time. Yeah. One good, one dark, right? And then maybe if we do only release one, it's just one neutral character, which doesn't really sway either way. But I could also see, since everyone has their own skill sets that you could pick and choose from, sometimes we'll add like our Megaton DLC, like this is our season 3 thing that we're adding. You know what I mean? Is like we are giving the king and tyrant dragon ults that you could use if you choose to use them. You know what I mean? Where like for specific, like the thief will give, like this season we're giving the thief this super special power, and it changes, like it comes with like a skin, a new look for them. and like new voice lines to go with whatever new skill they acquired, and it's going to add to their character lore. Like they developed this throughout from the launch of the game till the release of that new skill. They like learned it through something in the game.
What would be cool about the kings, like if they were to be able to use the dragon, would be different than a dragoon would, right? So I see them
Yeah.
saying like release the dragon. So then there would be something like the dragon's roar. So the dragon would fly and go over a certain area where the enemy team's gathering and then let out a roar, and then that would cause a debuff. Or another one would be Dragon's Eyes, where maybe it would hover over and then you're able to highlight and see different characters. So it's like the dragon's on the battlefield, so you can feel how powerful it is without it being necessarily contained to one character.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like an environmental thing?
Yeah. And obviously, if you look up, if let's say the king uses his ult, quote unquote, and it is more of like a giant dragon that flies through the sky, and it's more works kind of like a UAV / battle helicopter. If you look up, you could see this dragon creating chaos all over the map. You know what I mean?
And on top of that, not even just creating chaos, you can even have it where if you're able to shoot down the dragon or hurt it, it'll have to retreat, and then there'll be cooldowns on the abilities. So you can take care of it if he uses it in the wrong way. Like for instance, if you have the dragon swoop in the middle of an ult and it flies right into the ult, that dragon's going to go down for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Another thing I just thought of, and I think this is the competitive game mode. Like when you boot up and get to level 25 or whatever, let's just take Overwatch rules. You get to level 25, you've been playing in the quick play mode, doing the steal the dragon egg or capture these points in this field, and then you finally get to the competitive game mode. I feel like of course there's going to be other stuff mixed in, so it's not the same thing over and over again. But the main competitive game mode is called Siege, where like the goal of this game mode is like literally lay siege to wherever the other team is like centralized, right? And so it doesn't have to be a castle, but like let's just take the castle map for example. One team starts in the castle, the other team starts outside the castle, and your goal is to get into the castle walls. And I can imagine that being kind of like you have to hold specific points along the wall in order to bring it down, and then you could advance to the next stage, and then your spawn point now is at that castle wall, and now you have to go in deeper into like throne room and try to capture that, and that's just one central control point. Whereas on the outside skirts, you have to control 3 different control points, and when you knock down one control point, you only have 2 left, and then so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
And just gives it that, you know, medieval sense, like, and then maybe you could even steal a little bit from Battlefront 2, where there are like big weapons on the map that you could utilize if you want.
Okay,
you know, like
so
catapults or
so
ballistas.
Exactly. What's the other one? Isn't there one that throws stars, or is that only is that maybe?
What do you mean stars?
Never mind. That's something elves use. I didn't think that was real either. Okay, good to know. It was like, so what I imagine is it's like ballistas are huge crossbows, right? That you shoot giant arrows. Mm-hmm. So there's this one thing that I've seen in other video games where it's this bladed object. So imagine like a top that you're spinning off, but it's like a big old circular knife that then just shoots into the enemy. That's not real, is it?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if that's a real war instrument or not.
Well, it's going to be in this game because I really like that thing.
Cool. Like this game, I mean, we could keep going on and on, just creating character after character after character, game mode after game mode, map after map. I mean, we didn't talk about maps too much, but like you said, castles, forests, underground tunnels, big dungeons, random small villages, and like maybe farmland and stuff like that. We should have joke characters in this game. Like, have you ever played Diablo 2 and got into the cow level?
Nope. Never played Diablo 2. Diablo 4 Diablo 3 was my first Diablo. Diablo 4 isn't out yet. Right?
No, it's not out yet. No. But what if we had like evil character, which is just a cow with like a halberd, and then the good character is like, I don't know, a cat or something like that.
We could have characters like that, but they would be fantasy characters that would be in the lore. So there
Yeah.
would be an animalistic kind of character that way. I prefer cat characters that are creepy. Cats are way too intelligent and way too clever and athletic that if you give them any more intelligence, I feel like they end up, you just can't trust them. They're too powerful. They're like, why would I need to team up with anybody?
That being said, I think if we don't stop it here, we'll just keep going.
Here. Stop the train.
We'll go with the music now. I mean, typical fantasy music.
There's going to be lutes. There's going to be horns. There's going to be flutes. There's going to be trumpets.
Yeah.
There's going to be unique music to the bard.
Yeah, he'll have all his own.
Or royal procession
stuff.
Trumpets for the king and the tyrant. There maybe will be certain bard. I would even think the bard's music will change based on the teams he has. So that way, like let's say the king summons the dragon, the bard, when he starts playing his musical skill, will sing about the king and the dragon.
Ooh, the bard's gonna have a lot of voice lines, huh?
Yeah, he's gonna have the most. The absolute most.
That's cool. And then the evil part of the bard would be like a minstrel, right?
I was thinking not even a minstrel, but someone who does curses. So it's going to be one of those things where, forgive me, I hope this sounds right. It's like in every game where you hear a really loud whispering, but it's in the character's ear, and it causes them either to stun or even to turn against their own team. You know, like a shoot your team, and then like all of a sudden he turns around and starts shooting his own team.
Instead of that, what if the evil bard, quote unquote, it's not like whisper. What if he kind of like raps it, like spoken words it? You know what I mean?
How does that fit into medieval?
It would just be a cool character, you know?
So we're going to have a spoken word rapper that provides curses.
And all curses have to rhyme, you know? So it's like, I think it just fits.
All right, I'll give it to you.
Has to rhyme.
I'll give it to you.
All right, pricing. How much are you willing to pay for this? It's either free to play or $60.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I don't want to be
cosmetics. All achievable in game except for the event stuff that we'll bring back like every year or so. There'll be like an anniversary event where you can get everything from one loot box.
And just buy the game and not worry about it anymore. You know, you don't have to worry about a story. You don't have to get guilted by the game being like, hey, you download this for free. Why don't you buy an outfit?
Yeah. Like you can, but you could just earn it in the game if you just play.
And it's easy to do so. Yeah.
Right. All right, Alex. Well, it's time to start your timer because it's time to name this game.
All right. And go. 4 Kingdoms is taken.
By us.
Yeah.
Kingdom Come, taken. Kingdom Deliverance, also taken. I don't think we should put Kingdom in the name of this game.
No.
We should name it what if we name it the Knights of I'm trying to make up a word on the spot and I can't think of anything. The Knights of...
Why don't we call it something like Medieval Melee?
That's such a lame name.
Hey, it gets to the heart of the game. You want it to be something like the Dawn's Early Light kind of thing.
No, I want it to be like, I'm going to shout out a random thing. The Knights of...
Ren.
Milana.
Milana, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, just a made-up name for this land that these two warring countries are fighting over.
Why don't we call it like King's Country? There's a lot of it's just a place where there's many kings. There's like a couple that we talked about. Maybe there's a couple more. I don't know. I wanted alliteration. King's Quarrels. Quarrel isn't a cool name. Nobody likes that they're getting into a quarrel. If you told me you got into a quarrel, I'd be like, I'm sure you've got it. I don't think you need help with a quarrel.
Okay. How about I want to stay away from kings and kingdom in the title. So what if we go with the
Queendom. This is really hard for me. Once you took away knights and kings and let's see.
Well, we don't have to take away knights because I just said a few of those. But I mean, you already said we have
Silver
4
Stars and
kingdoms.
Spells.
We have kingdom, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
What if we call it like, man, a Bard's Tale was taken. That would be pretty cool, though.
It is taken.
Yeah.
Wars with Wizards. No, that would mean that people would be like, where's all we need more wizards? Wizards is in the title.
Yeah.
Medieval's taken.
I'm thinking of like a Knight's Folly.
Nothing happened though. A folly means like it's an embarrassment.
Maybe
you're gonna
in
retcon.
The lore, one knight started the entire thing. He took on a young maiden that he shouldn't have, and it was a witch, and she cursed the land of Melania.
We're not naming this land Melania. We're just not. I see where this is going. I don't want it to go there. Let's call it medieval magic. People would want more magic.
That's the same thing that happened with a Wizard's War or something you said earlier.
Wizard's War, medieval magic. The Thief's Thistle.
What is a thistle?
A thistle is a type of plant. Swords, staves, and sickles. A game about combat.
Damn.
No name game in medieval times. That's a good one. I'm gonna save that title for a game that's gonna be abstract. No name game. Don't you guys wait for it. You'll see. Fuck it. If you're talking about Knight's Folly, why don't we retcon like something like War of the Three Moons, where because 3 moons are appearing in the sky, everyone's trying to go after these mages that are now empowered, right? That's the reason these people are strong, is there's 3 moons in the sky.
We aren't taking the game we just created into context. A big part of the lore that I think we created for this game is dragons have a lot of power in this world. And dragons seem to be what a lot of people try to accumulate the most of to win wars, kind of like akin to nuclear weapons.
Yep.
So what if we call it the I mean, this is such a lame name, but at this point, we have to take something. The Dragon War.
Oh, Jay. Dang. You know what's a better name that we can't use?
What's that?
Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, another name we could have used. The Dragon's Prince, which is a pretty good cartoon. The Dragon's Folly.
A Dragon's Destruction. The Destruction of Dragons.
That sounds like we're just committing mass murder here.
I mean, dragons are sold. It's a black market. Dragon's Fire Under the Three Moons, series 1 of 7.
That sounds like a book.
Yeah, that's why I did that. One of those series that you always kind of go in at book 2 or 3 because you find it at a library or a Barnes and Noble. Okay. How about A Fool's Folly? Get some alliteration in there.
How's that any different from A Knight's Folly?
It's a alliteration. It makes all the difference.
Oh my, even lamer name. And this is gonna sound familiar to you. Oh my god, it sounds so dumb when I'm thinking about how it's gonna sound out loud. Dragonland.
Nah, we can't name this Dragonland. Welcome to the land of dragons, or how some say it overseas, Dragonland. And then epic music plays as it goes off.
Dragonland with a U, not an O. The dragons in this world are called dragons.
Dragoon. No, we can't. Okay. All right. Why don't we call it,
Dragon's Path.
Why don't we call it Dragon Core?
Dragon Core.
Sounds like another IP that we would make where each team member has a dragon. Okay. The Price of Dragons. Price is a kingdom. Price is a war. Price of using dragons. Ooh, the merchant could get a big bounty if you kill a dragon on the battlefield. Price of Dragons.
I'm taking a little bit from your idea. Dragons Cash. Like CACHE.
You think people are going to know what cash means?
They'll be fine.
Hey man, have you heard about that game? That new game, Dragons Cash? Cash? You mean like cash money? No,
well,
like
that's
cash.
where it comes from. I'm pretty sure. I think Cash is named after cash, like a bounty of loot. Eventually, people just started saying cash. You know what I mean? That's my theory on how cash became a word.
Fuck it. We'll go with Dragons Cash at 4 minutes.
Oh damn! It felt so much longer than 4 minutes. I can't imagine what our longer ones felt like to us, because like we've had longer.
There was
ones
one where we had 8 minutes, another one where we had 10 minutes, and that must have been dreadful.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Dreadful dragons. Nope, nothing yet. All right.
Dragon's Dread.
That's perfect.
Is it
Dragon's
better?
Dread? Yeah, it is better. Dragon's Dread, and this is the first time ever we've edited a title after getting it.
I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure we've edited some.
4 minutes, 30 seconds. Dragon's Dread. The dread of dragons. Because I mean, are the dragons dreading anything?
No, but the dragons and the struggle for power over dragons has caused a lot of dread. Okay,
Dragon Dread.
It doesn't have to make sense, Alex. It just sounds good. Just go with it.
I mean, you're right. Revengeance. Okay. Dragon's Dread is a hero shooter set in a land far, far in the past, where there's magic coming from the ground and kingdoms that fight over power. And the most power you can have is in a dragon. So if your kingdom amasses a dragon, you can fight with it. Will you be the kingdom that conquers? Find out in Dragon's Dread.
All right. So I think we have a game here, Alex. What do you think? Would this be a game you would want to play? And is it fun?
Hell yeah, this would be a game I'd want to play. I'd want to do a whole bunch of stuff. I love hero shooters. I think they're a blast. I love finding out about the characters, what they do. I like being able to use different characters. The strategy aspect is immensely addicting to me as I figure out what works and what doesn't. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, lately I've been on a new Overwatch binge. And I mean, like how Spellbreak broke up the monotony of battle royales for a little while, I think Dragon's Dread could do the same for heroes shooters. Just because, I mean, Overwatch does a good. They do multiple heroes that all feel very different. Well, but it's definitely a sci-fi setting, and I think medieval setting I think would be really cool, if especially if we add like crazier magic and crazier like different types of monster characters that you could play as. And then I like the idea where in this one you do see NPCs kind of walk around, you could switch out skills and stuff. I think it could end up being pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. Especially like just crazier magic. Already started thinking of a time wizard.
Oh, that'd be complicated. I don't know how that would work out.
I do know, but I'll talk about it after the show. Stay tuned, guys.
Wait, what?
It's going to be a little secret, a little extra.
Okay, I gotcha. All right. Now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you sign to make Dragon's Dread the best?
Well, you know, Jay, I think this is going to be something a little bit different than what they've usually done, but they're hot right now. They're a hot studio. They're really good at coming up with unique ideas. And let's go ahead and hand this off to Supergiant.
Whoa. Okay, not who I was thinking at all.
But think about the lore.
Yeah, that's true.
And think about the classes, and then think about the announcer at the start of each match and the voice acting. It would all be top tier.
That's true. No, they would do something very different and very interesting with this game.
Yeah. It would not be traditionally what you're thinking of. However, Supergiant would create a game that I think is fun, and they're one of the developers out there that I am now keeping an eye on.
Right. Yeah, most
Not
definitely.
that I haven't been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I love Supergiant games, and Pyre, everyone should play it.
And they have a new game out, right?
Yeah, Hades, which, yeah. Now that I think about it, Pyre is kind of very close to this.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a sports game.
Yeah,
just
so
translate that to a competitive shooter instead. Yeah. Who would I give this? I mean, you know, Blizzard's up there, of course. But
you can't. Blizzard wouldn't even want to touch this.
Yeah, no, they're not going to go near this because Blizzard loves having multiple games that are very different from each other.
I've got my next.
I give this to?
I got my next developer.
Give it out because I.
All right, my next developer is going to be motherfucking Bungie. So,
whoa,
yeah. So what they're going to have is they're going to have Destiny, which is a shared world shooter, and then they're going to have Dragon's Dread, which is going to be a hero shooter that's medieval. But they're going to take all that shooting goodness and all that kind of physics that they built up, but change it up for the players. So now they're going to have two cash cows. They're going to be like, you want to go up in space? There it is. You want to go in the past and have some magic? Here's another game for you. I'm on fire.
You're bringing out the great picks right now, man. You know what? Let me go crazy too. Let's give this. Now stick with me. Let's give this to BioWare.
Okay.
They haven't done much like this at all. They delved a little bit into it with Anthem, you know, with the magic and multiplayer aspects to it. But I think it'd be pretty interesting what they'll decide to do, you know?
No, I think it would be cool. You saw in Mass Effect that they had like 4 or 5 different shepherds you could play as. So you could see something like that happening, but with a medieval style to it. I think it could work.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I got. You got any other studios out there?
Nope. Those are the two that I could think of right off the top of my head.
And with that, our 123 IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You can write to @poundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. We're still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review Dragon's Dread, the video game we just created today. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Jay Yee.
And I'm Alex Gonzalez.
Thank you. And please remember that we are not game devs.
All
Tell
right,
me about
guys.
this time wizard, Alex.
Thanks for sticking to the end. This time wizard is going to have it. So you know those aiming reticles that you see? Well, when an enemy team does it, they're going to aim for an area of effect. So that's what the time wizard is able to see. So before the projectiles even hit, they'll be able to see the aim confirmation. So it's like you see into the future. You get that? And then the ult will be him he'll have another ability where he'll put a small bubble down or a sphere, and people are trapped in time in the sphere. And his ult will be literally rewinding the clock back 2 or 3 seconds. And during this time, there will be voice communication for your team, but none for the enemy team.
What would you say? Because I assume this guy's on the bad guy side, or he could be on the light side, and we have a cool twist to his character. What would his opposite equivalent be? Would you say, or is he a neutral character?
I think the opposite side would be a mage that has decaying abilities. So the more things he touches, or the longer he or she touches something, it decays. So that includes walls, that includes buildables, that includes turret setup, that also includes certain destructible doors. He's able to destroy them very fast, or create holes in walls so people can peek.
Are those holes forever?
Yeah. Or maybe they don't have to be. Maybe he steals their essence and they slowly start to rebuild back. I don't know. But that would be the counterparts. Man, I think it feels like my brain's built to make heroes like this. This is fun.